they had the old hieroglyphs and old tablets and stuff that showed like the Sumerians. Even they would be sitting around a huge jar that was like, I'd say about maybe 4.5 foot tall, and they would fill it with beer, and each person that was there would literally drink, have a huge straw going down into it, and they would just drink off of it.
Bob wants to participate.
Oh my goodness, she did it again. You don't have to
No,
participate.
sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to participate. I was trying to type something and I was on the wrong screen.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny. I was just listening to something about the Mesopotamian, beer drinking, and that's like some of our earliest records of beer. Them and the Egyptians. I guess women were generally the brewmasters back then, and they were the ones that owned the taverns. And because it was yeast, I guess bread making and beer making were always kind of associated because they were both using yeast. And I guess back then you just couldn't go to the store and buy some packaged yeast. If you had a yeast culture, you had to keep it going so you could still keep making bread and beer.
The old argument about what came first, bread or beer.
Yeah. It could have been the same time,
Well, I mean,
kind of beery bread or beery. I've had beer that was almost like bread. I had this Belgian beer once, Saint Sixtus, I think it was called, or something. Saint Bernardus, that was it, and very expensive. A buddy of mine swore by it and bought us a couple of bottles, a little like 10-ounce bottle for $5 back then. It was,
White
and it was
beer.
like drink. It was very dark.
Yeah, okay. I think
It has a drunk monk. The label has a monk holding a big glass, looking very happy and drunk. And it's this dark brown beer, and the head is like amazingly thick. And it's like drinking a hunk of bread. I don't think the alcohol content is particularly high, but it's like drinking bread. It's just all this wheat and barley and stuff. It's really like barley juice that's like slightly fermented. I could see that being a nutritious part of your meal after you've been like working in the fields all day.
have you ever drank moonshine?
I have. Both commercial and homemade.
Just
I've
curious.
had honey shine, which is
Back
made
in
from
my
mead.
Back in my late teenage years, I was drinking lots of Belgian beer. Different times. It was a good pub, a good nightclub actually, in Exeter. They used to sell decent Belgian beers of different types.
What about moonshine? Did you ever do moonshine?
It's moonshine to say a very generic term.
Moonshine is definitely not generic, dude. You drink moonshine, you're gonna know you're drinking moonshine.
Yeah, but there was a singular recipe for.
They call it moonshine for a reason.
Doesn't it technically have to be distilled through the radiator of a 1957 Chevy?
Yes,
Technically moonshine.
you hit it right there, dude. You're right.
So moonshine didn't exist before 1957.
Exactly. Before that, they used a DeSoto. But I know that I think moonshine, the way I think of it, is just any home distilled kind of alcohol, something that you don't do with the permission of the government.
Right.
So that's where they would do it by moonlight. So it would be like moonshine. What are you doing out there at night? Oh, I'm just bottling up the moonshine. But now, of course, I've actually seen commercially made stuff marketed as moonshine. I remember a while ago, a long time ago, last time I was in this liquor store, and they had like little mason jars with like clear liquid and a piece of fruit at the bottom labeled moonshine. But I do know some people that do home distilling, and I've had distilled mead. So it was like, they called it honey shine. It was just from, completely honey produced, honey based alcohol. But as I recall, it tasted just like any kind of hard liquor. It had no real flavor to it. It was just crude and burning. So
The good old days.
yeah.
If you well, like, you take moonshine and literally like take the rust off of cars, just rub it in to the side of it, and especially if it was made from potatoes. potato shine is
Ooh,
the strongest.
that's hardcore.
And they use corn and potatoes.
We must know this story about Northern Russia, and after Soviet Union collapsed. There was reports at the time of so many people dying because of
Badly made alcohol.
really questionable vodka.
Yeah.
Biggest
Using
killers at the time.
I would personally say vodka started out as moonshine, to be honest with you, because like back when I was drinking, that was my fault too. It was always vodka because it was cheap and it was strong enough and it had a kick. You know what I mean? So I could see that being like Russia's version of moonshine here in the United States. I mean,
I remember reading that moonshining in the U.S. got started by the Irish American community, because they said every Irish immigrant that hit the shores, the first thing they did was go settle down, go up in the woods, and start making poteen, which was a great Irish tradition of distilling your own alcohol. And it just kind of stuck. And I mean, after all, it's why not?
I can believe it. Irish whiskey.
Yeah. And they distill whatever they had handy. So
if you want to get drunk, you drink that Irish whiskey, and
then you get into the whole Bushmills versus Jameson debate.
Well, I mean, I've already told you my opinion on Scotch. Anybody who can drink Scotch with dignity, freaking, I take my hats off to them, because
I love single malt.
That's why I said that.
Yeah, but it's a good Scotch.
I don't think there's such thing as good Scotch. That's
There is a difference between a good Scotch and like the gallon Juggo Scotch for $9.95 down at the market.
I've had a few versions of Scotch, okay, and every time I drink that stuff, I'm like, oh my god, the Scottish drink this stuff on a regular basis. I'm like, wow, And I mean,
a lot about Scotland.
I'm
not sure if it's a bit of a stereotype that's usually Scots. Where is it? Down in Devon, there's a monastery, famous monastery, Buckfast, which produces its own wine, which is laced with caffeine.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And there's this whole joke about glass regions using getting out of heads on this stuff, and it was actually a big problem in Glasgow at one point.
I heard something about that. They were trying to restrict access to it or something because they thought people were overdoing it, or it reminds me of there used to be a beverage called Van Mariani, which it was made with coca leaves, so it actually contained measurable amounts of cocaine. It was one of the Pope's favorite beverages. They made it in the 19th century. I don't believe it's available anymore unless you have a really, really old cellar. But yeah, they would do odd things with. But one of the things I was going to talk about here in the States, at least in some neighborhoods, it used to be, if you ordered an Irish whiskey, you had to be careful depending on the bar, because Jameson's is made in Ireland, and it's seen as a good Republican whiskey, whereas Bushmills is made in Northern Ireland and it's considered unionist. So woe betide you if you go into a Republican establishment and you order a unionist whiskey, and vice versa. It's in fact good to look up at the shelf and see what kind is there, and that could give you an inkling as to how to shape your political discourse for the evening. Kind of. I don't think it's quite like that anymore, but I remember when I was much younger.
It probably is, though, because like when Mark always talks, he doesn't regard Ireland as a real republic. If it relates to anything, it has to be Northern Ireland. He's
Yeah, because a lot of Americans, and even you do it quite often, you just lump Ireland as one sort of area, one country.
Right.
He got feisty right there. Did you see his facial expressions?
You know, the thing is,
I find this all the time with Americans.
I always grew up with a family that assumed that the 6 northern counties are an indissoluble part of the republic and will one day be returned. But that was just kind of, nothing extreme or anything. That was just kind of the way everybody seemed to think around me at the time. All my uncles are in the Ancient Order of Hibernians, if you've heard of them, and all that kind of stuff. So, but that it was by the, I think it's more nowadays just posturing. Really, there isn't much to it, and but it was more or less just a way to take the news in our family. I understand counter arguments, and I understand the wishes of the population might need to be taken into account. But
with the issue with the EU and things like food taxation and food controls, Northern Ireland is a big question even now, because especially with this current and the previous government not protecting Northern Irish interests as much as they should have.
Really?
Yeah. The EU is sort of making a lot of demands and making a lot of diktats over what can be imported and exported from Ireland or from Northern Ireland to the UK, which is the mainland UK.
Huh.
That's kind of interesting, because we were talking about that before, about them wanting to stay in the EU and you guys breaking away from them.
Well, when a locality is not happy with how the central government is going, I mean, you've got to have feedback and take into account that's happening up in Canada right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What is it, Alberta? Is that the province that is very unhappy with how they've been treated by the central government, and they're, so in these times you've got to try to keep your eye on all the balls. It's tough, but you're juggling a lot, and you just can't put people on the back burner for too long. They'll put up with it for so long, but they'll start looking around and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, man, this isn't fair."
All right.
And then you can have political trouble.
Well, we've been having a lot of conversations with Naroki, and he's from there, and he says a lot of that. He gets into a lot of that, and I'm okay with most of the stuff he says, but I also know that he's caught up in the whole atmosphere. He wants Alberta to break away from the rest of Canada. So I mean, it's it's really hard to tell. I've heard about the corrupt tactics that's been going on there. They're making it sound like it's just a small population of Alberta who wants to break away from Canada. And
right.
He claims that it's not. It's just the way that they're doing, their polling. Their polling is supposed to be really messed up.
Skewed and flawed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's ways to do that, sure.
And then the conservative who was going to try to run for prime minister there just recently went on Rogan's show, and after saying that he was going to support separation and all this stuff, later on he turns around, gets on Joe Rogan's show and starts saying, "Oh, it's never going to happen," like he was never for it. And it's wow, I seen. He just basically did an entire, a 180?
Yeah, weird.
Even in the UK, there is rumours that Starmer is attempting to push us back into the EU through backdoor sort of measures, just accepting more and more of the EU's rules.
The only thing I disagree with Naroki on, and most of the separationists over there, is that they have this idea that the United States is going to have to get involved because of China.